I highly recommend grounding for everyone. Spend at least 20 to 30 minutes a day with your feet in the dirt or in the grass. And if the weather doesn't permit, get you a grounding device. My wife got 2 of these for $15 from Amazon. You know, they're not expensive.
Welcome, everyone. Today is an incredible day that I've been looking forward to for such a long time. It actually is my birthday today. I'm 52 years old. And so my birthday present is that I get Brett Lloyd, who has been an encourager, a mentor, one of the first personalities that I saw on Instagram about the connection between mental health and a 100% carnivore diet. He is so faithful to post about his journey. And if you have any doubt about whether your mind can be transformed, watching his story, listening to him, spending time with him will really help you understand what is possible. Along the way, I've come to meet Dr. Rachel Brown, and she has this professionalism. She's written a book. She has an experience in this as a psychologist. She's worked for, a long time, and she has had a personal transformation herself. And so getting these guys together to talk mental health, carnivore, ketogenic diet, what this can do for people is an absolute honor. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
No, pleasure. Welcome.
Awesome. And so I want to hear, we were just talking that recently we've had some experiences. I was at KetoCon, Rachel was at TCU. We had these times where we're getting to actually meet some of our folks in person. And Brett was saying that he got the short end here.
I did. All the pretty women got to meet Sean Baker, and I didn't.
We're gonna have to pretty it up here. I don't know.
I can't be prettied up, so I guess I'm just SOL.
Well, listen, I want to get into my watchers might not know your guys' stories and background, and so I want to start with Brett, and I want to go to Rachel. Tell us a little bit about the background and how you got to realize the difference that in our mindset and in our literal thinking process that nutrition can have. How in the world did that come up?
Well, I'll give you a super condensed version of it. Otherwise, this will be 2 hours long. I was raised in a standard American diet home. We had an enormous vegetable garden, had plenty of meat. I was an athlete. We thought we were doing the food pyramid. We were doing everything correctly. And out of the 4 of us, my dad passed away in 2020 after 20 plus years of type 2 diabetes that no doctor ever told him he could cure himself of. My little baby 6 foot tall sister almost died from ulcerative colitis. She's got IBS. She's done research, so she won't try carnivore. So she's still chained to her illness, unfortunately. And my mom suffered a myriad of health issues. She was always having surgery, have something fixed, something repaired, something removed. She had her gallbladder removed, just all kinds of problems. And I suffered from chronic mental illness for over 43 years of my life. My life became horribly unmanageable due to mental illness over time. And I'm a musician. I couldn't work and perform for like 13 years because I was not a pleasant person to be around. I was an angry, depressed person. Mm-hmm. I was good at spreading the misery and not much else. But then I was very blessed to watch a Joe Rogan podcast one day and saw Dr. Jordan Peterson describe how his daughter figured out if she only ate beef, salt, and water, her arthritis symptoms went away. Her chronic arthritis and her chronic depression went away. And if it's anybody but Jordan Peterson telling me that, I'm changing the channel because, man, just eating meat, that's crazy. But here it was Dr. Jordan Peterson, a man who I believe has incredible integrity. And so I had, after my wife verified for me, yeah, that's really what he said. I started investigating, and then I found Dr. Sean Baker, who was on Joe Rogan, and I watched the dietary portion of that about 50 times, because at this point I'm thinking, there's got to be a flaw in the logic somewhere. Some doctor, some psychiatrist, some psychologist, some nurse practitioner would have mentioned this to me, but it never was mentioned. Diet was never brought up at all. And again, here you have somebody with incredible integrity. I mean, he used to have nuclear launch codes to one of our nuclear missile silos. They just don't let anybody do that. And then Amber O'Hearn gave a talk at Keto Fest in 2017 where she described in a way this guitar player could understand how as a species, we literally came down out of the trees and grew these energy demanding brains in our current skeletal structure by eating meat. And I looked at my wife and I said, I have to try this. So July 16th of 2018, I started eating meat and drinking water. And today is my 1774th day of only eating meat and only drinking water. And I've had exactly 0 cheat days. I lost on the 10th day, I woke up without joint pain. As an adult, I'd never been diagnosed with arthritis, but I'd fallen down and gone boom a few times. I had some aches and pains, and I woke up and they were all gone. On the 24th day, I lost my depression symptoms. 6 months later, the chronic anxiety that haunted me for 43 years was gone. 10 months into Carnivore, the insomnia that haunted me for 43 years was gone. And I've been completely symptom-free ever since. Every day continues to be better than the day before, and I genuinely experience every day of my life effortless daily happiness because of this way of eating.
Oh my goodness. And you have coached how many people by now? Because you've gotten involved with the coaching and you still have some coaching practice going?
I still coach. I couldn't tell you how many clients I've had. I love helping people. People, in my opinion, people need to know they're not broken. They're not a genetic error. Mom and dad didn't make a mistake. We were all just taught to eat things that we should never, ever have put into our mouth. Not a single time. And we've paid a heavy price for that. And to see, I naturally, because of my history with mental illness, most of my clients, they've seen my videos, my interviews, etc. And so they come to me, I'm like their last hope in many cases. And they come heavily medicated, extremely low energy, no hope in their eyes. And it's a real blessing to be able to explain things to them in a way they can understand. And you see their affect change. You see that light come on in their eyes for the first time in Lord knows how long. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it is through proper human nutrition. And it really does work. And I'm so happy to be a part of this discussion and getting to share these sorts of things.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much. That's so powerful. Dr. Brown, tell us about your journey to Carnivore.
Yeah, sure. So that's funny, Brett. I hadn't realized it was July 2018 that you'd gone carnivore because it was July 2019 for me. So strange coincidence. But I think Brett was one of the first people that I came across on social media who was speaking about the benefits in terms of their mental health in relation to carnivore. But anyway, I'll go back a bit before that. So I'd been keto for a few years and I really admire the work of Vanessa Spina, so Ketogenic Girl. And I'd used some of her meal plans and was in her Facebook group and so on. And then I think it was just coincidentally one day she was doing a carnivore trial. So she posted some pictures of her food on Instagram. And I remember when I saw them thinking, what on earth is she doing? How strange is that? And that was my first introduction to carnivore because it was something I just had never come across before. And so anyway, my first thought was that's completely crazy. Who on earth would do that? And I remember like nobody I work with really has any interest in terms of food. But I remember saying to a couple of people at work, I've just heard that there's people who only eat meat. Is that not just the craziest thing you've ever heard? And they nodded along saying, oh yeah, it's really crazy. But they're not interested in that. So the topic of conversation moved on. But very, very quickly, I just thought I need to find out more about this because if Vanessa's doing it, she's someone I really respect her views and she's very knowledgeable in terms of the scientific basis of things and biochemistry and so on. So I looked online and it was a talk that Michaela Peterson gave at CarnivoryCon I listened to her story, which was just really eye-opening in terms of a health recovery story from multiple different disorders, a lot of them autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, but also the mental health issues that she'd had at a very young age. So I thought, there must be something more to this. And then the next talk I came across was Sean Baker speaking at CarnivoryCon, and it was those two speeches I listened to, and that was me. So I thought, okay, I'm convinced I've got to try this. And I'm an abstainer, so it was all or nothing. And we were actually on holiday, and I don't remember the exact date in July, but I remember it was July 2019 because we were away on holiday at the time. And we were staying in a hotel that had a buffet type restaurant. And I remember the first couple of nights putting a couple of mushrooms on my plate and going back to the table and thinking, can I really just get rid of all the veg? Is this right? But I did within a day or two, and that was me. And I just haven't looked back since. And I didn't think I had any major health issues at the time. So it wasn't that I went carnivore to try to resolve any specific health issue, but I've just had so many health benefits, and my eyes have opened to probably some health issues I had been living with for a long time that I wasn't really that aware of, that have since improved. So one of the big ones is my immune health. So I just rarely get sick anymore, and I used to come down with the common cold quite frequently and had sinusitis and other type issues. So that's been one of my big improvements, but there've been lots of others as well. And it's really revolutionized my relationship with food. So that's one of the other big ones for me. So I'm a sugar addict, but I hadn't fully appreciated that until I went carnivore, despite having been keto for quite a number of years and low carb for many more years prior to that. So carnivore has just brought such a food freedom and a different level of satiety to my life. That's just something that I'd never really known before.
You personally had a dramatic before and after, and so you had your things turning around, and then putting this into the context of how many, what led you've written a book now that lists carnivore as an option, as one of the, on a spectrum of things that can work for people and can really help people. And how did it get you to, how did you feel motivated to actually get that book out there? Tell us about that book a little bit.
Oh gosh, so I was lucky enough. So transitioned to carnivore July 2019, and then I don't know when Dr. Georgia Ede first started her clinician training, so using ketogenic diets for clinicians. But it was January 2021 when I trained with her, and I think she may have started that not that long before. And it was really learning all of the scientific basis behind how and why ketogenic diets in particular, with carnivore being a subset of a keto diet, how that can really be very powerful as a recovery tool in terms of major mental health disorders and other neurological illnesses as well. And so yeah, that's how I came to writing a book. And gosh, there's a fair bit to the story. So I'd gone through a GMC investigation around that time, so that had been ongoing for a year. And when I came out the other side of that, I really felt like I just wanted to do something for myself, but also I'd put on hold my plans to really speak out about all of this because of everything else that was going on with that. And ultimately, I just wanted to piece all the research together in my own mind so that I knew it really well and understood all the mechanisms. But also it was about putting something down in writing, that just what I want to tell patients all the time, but I never get the chance to really do it in a limited consultation, because it is a vast subject and the human body is so complex. But I think the science is all there. It is all there, really. It's just the gold standard of scientific research. We always think about being randomized controlled trials, but that hasn't been done because, let's face it, the funding isn't going to be there from a drug company to roll out a trial for a lifestyle type intervention. And I think lifestyle, it isn't the right term, because a ketogenic diet is a very powerful medical intervention ultimately.
Absolutely. I just heard recently, I want to say it was Brett Sure was saying that ketogenic approach needs to be applied prescriptively. So that it needs to be looked at like a prescription, like you need to be looking at the downsides, the plus sides, the complications. Brett, when you're starting out with people, I know you are saying follow the instructions and reap the rewards. You take them through a prescriptive process to some degree. What are some of those initial steps, and what are some of the things that layer in over time when you're actually working with coaching clients?
Well, the first thing I do with every coaching client is I give them the same directions that I discovered at the Zeroing In on Health group on Facebook, which was where the 10-year plus carnivores like Kelly Hogan, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, Charles Washington, and many others, they put all this together
Oh, nice.
over a number of years. And those directions are only eat when hungry. When you're hungry, only eat meat until you're completely satiated. Or as we here in America say, not another bite full, Thanksgiving full. Only eat the meat that you crave, that you can afford. Never ever do you put a sweet taste of any kind, artificial or natural, into your mouth. And then there's the 0.5 of be patient, trust the process, and trust your body. I always, and lots of times, like I had a client today that said they've been trying the diet for about 60 days, and I gave them those directions. I said, now, how much of that are you doing? And they were doing about half of it. So we got to do it all. You know, if you follow if you want 100% of the results, you got to follow the directions 100% of the time because it works. Now it works at different speeds because everybody's physiology is unique to them. It's not a one size fits all paradigm, but that's the big thing. And then I remind people of the importance of changing your mindset, which I don't think gets discussed enough. You know, we focus so much on, okay, let's get you symptom free as quickly as possible. And then we move on to the next person in many cases. And once somebody's symptom free, that doesn't mean they're out of the woods yet, because if they haven't changed their mindset, if they haven't changed their relationship with what is really food, what is really human fuel versus what is garbage packaged as food that has no nutrition our bodies can absorb and put to use.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it'll be sweet and it'll be addictive. You know, I've seen people, they work really hard for 6 months to a year and they get to the symptom-free place. That's wonderful. But because they didn't change their mindset and they didn't change the things and habits within themselves that are necessary to succeed after wellness, in a year, they were right back where they started.
Wow. Do you see that, Dr. Brown, too? And can you speak to, I know mindset is like what are the things that go into that and creating that new kind of it's almost like new neural pathways. Right? Is there a physiology to mindset? What's the science behind mindset?
Oh yeah, there must be. And it's kind of not my particular area, but I always think of Joan Ifland, and she talks about kind of mirror neurons and so on, and the importance of having community and being with like-minded people, and to reinforce all of the changes, because let's face it, we know it can be a fairly isolating place to be making a big dietary change such as going carnivore, particularly if you don't have people around you who are also living or eating that way. But yeah, I think mindset is absolutely huge. And I think probably one of the most important things is for people to really be able to hold in mind why they're doing this in the first place. So what's most important to them. And usually you find that over time, the more you practice something, it just does become an automatic habit after a while, and then it does become effortless. But obviously some people's journeys can be more complicated than others. And you know, life is complex and relationships are complex, and no two people are the same in terms of their personal situation and all the difficulties they might be dealing with, that, you know, the potential things that can sabotage progress.
Absolutely. I want to talk about sabotage, falling off. You know, it's such so this is interesting. So it's such an appealing for us, the three of us, when we found this, learned about it, started it, didn't stop it. This was like, this is it. We found it. We're in this zone. But it's like, I see so many people consider that they're falling off or failing or struggling or making some mistakes and having some bumps on the road. What do you see as some of the major issues with that? And how are you helping people get back to not giving up and continuing on?
Well, the way I approach it, especially dealing with people who've eliminated their depression or the chronic anxiety or the chronic insomnia, I focus on, you got to appreciate this is a gift. Your sanity is everything. You don't have any real quality of life if you're not sane. I know, because I lived without it for 40 years. It's my most prized earthly possession. And there's no taste, there's no texture, there's no social setting worth me ever putting my sanity at risk. And a lot of folks just, oh, the carnivore diet, diets all diets have a beginning and an end point. Well, this is a lifestyle. I don't even call it the carnivore diet anymore. It's a lifestyle. I don't ever want to deviate from what works, because the price is my sanity. The price is my wife's quality of life, because I go crazy again, she suffers as much or more than I do. And so that's the first thing that I try to get people to think about. Do you understand the significance of this? And there's also the reality that just because we healed once doesn't mean we get an endless number of tries. There's no guarantee after the first time that there'll be a second time or a third time. So you need to treat it like the special gift that it is, because if you're not careful, you can lose it, and it will be as if it'll be like any other progressive illness, like alcoholism, sex addiction, gambling, etc. It'll be as if you never got better at all if you don't treat yourself with kindness and serious care and stay on task with your eating. That's why I've never been interested in, you all see the trends. There's always a new carnivore recipe for this.
Oh, you're not doing a sardine fast right now?
I don't do any of that stuff. I would not fool with that for love nor money, because what I know works for me doesn't need to be tweaked. It doesn't need to be improved. It's already, my God, I feel I have effortless daily happiness every day. How do you get better than that? What's better than that? I start glowing in the dark? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so I try to convey to people, number one, don't beat yourself up about it. Learn, why did this happen? That's the first thing to figure out. Why did it happen? It happened for a reason. And usually it's because the person didn't change their mindset. They didn't change their relationship with food. They didn't have it explained to them that, listen, if it was inflammatory to eat yesterday, it's inflammatory to eat today, and it'll be inflammatory tomorrow. And you start putting the old favorites back into your diet, you're going to end up in the same pit you worked so hard to crawl out of. So it's all very avoidable, but some people aren't given the information necessary for them to understand just how precious a gift they've been given.
Wow. It's all about honoring that gift, prioritizing that gift, and keeping that focal point, and realizing that your freedom and your healing is crucial. And if you take your eyes off of having gratitude for that, I mean, you are the thankful carnivore, right? And so it is in your branding, is in your title of to be ever aware. And we learn all this, like gratitude is supposed to be really important, right? Having a gratitude mindset. And so you're taking this and you're specifically saying, I have gratitude for this gift. And I treasure this gift. Every day you treasure that gift.
Absolutely. And I say prayer of thanksgiving every night before I go to sleep. Thanks for teaching me about meat and water. Because without it, my quality, if I'm alive at all, my quality of life is non-existent. And I won't be, I'm a performing musician. I'm enjoying performing live music in a way I never thought was possible before. I'm more proficient now with my instrument than I've ever been before in my life. Because when I was crazy, there was a wall there. I couldn't, no matter how many hours of rehearsal and practice I would put in, I couldn't get past that point. Now, there are no limits. I'll get out of it. Just the effort I put into my instrument is exactly what I'm going to get back. And I'm playing at a higher level now than I've ever played at in my life. I actually had somebody say something to me yesterday. It was one of the kindest compliments I've ever gotten. This was another musician. He said, what I'm working on right now is to get to your level. I've never had anybody even hint at something like that before. And I'm not, I don't say that because my head swelled up with ego. I'm saying it because it was genuine. I genuinely appreciated what they were saying. And without the carnivore lifestyle, none of that happens. None of it happens.
the foundation. Wow. And I love, I'm hearing all these other words too. I'm hearing practice, right? This is in your creativity that you're practicing, you're using that same mindset and that same priority of thankful of the gift of music and what that is doing for you. And I almost feel like when you learn how to do this in one area, let's say this is our carnivore area, and you make that, you learn how to internalize this, make this your lifestyle, be thankful for it, then that transfers to other areas of your life, and you're able to incorporate those same mindset practices to actually have a lot of other things expand in your life.
Very much so. And for me, music now is about sharing my joy, my love of music, and I'm able to share it in a way that people can feel and absorb, and that makes them want to stand up and applaud at the end of a song. I mean, it's been weird here. The last 5 of the last 6 weeks, I've had standing ovations when I've gotten performing, and other musicians at these same venues are like, nobody here ever gets a standing ovation. And I'm like, I don't understand it, except somebody explained it to me. They're like, your joy comes across. People know you're not just playing a song to be playing it. People know that you mean it, that you feel it, and they're able to share in the emotion.
I agree completely. And I feel like having our emotions balanced, our nutritional needs met, the neurotransmitters met, all these things that are happening, it just like opens us up to areas of life flow. And that's what I see in you, Brett. I just see like flow. So it's so cool to see. I want to get back to Rachel on this thing about self-sabotage and, with the people going off track and people that are able to actually make it into a lifestyle. What are some of the components that makes that be successful for them?
Yes, I think one thing is trying to get away from using food as entertainment, because I think we are conditioned to use food in that way from a very young age. That's funny, Brett. But you just look around at the sugar that we give children from an extremely young age, and sugar is possibly one of the most addictive drugs on the face of this earth. And we're conditioned to have sugary treats at all the major holidays and birthdays and birthday cake and Christmas and you name it. And so I think it does take a change in mindset to look at food as fuel and nourishment for the body. And I think it just becomes a very simple, straightforward relationship. That's my experience. And I think that's the experience of other people following carnivore who have been doing it for quite some time, where once you can manage to peel back the layers of complicated emotion around food, and you're not using food to manage stress or for any sort of emotional regulation, then it just becomes a very straightforward relationship of eating when you're truly hungry. And you can still gain enjoyment from the food, but actually it just becomes a very basic need. And I find it hard to explain in any other way. It's like a basic need that then becomes fulfilled, and you get a very clear signal when you've had enough. And then you can put that to the side and not think about food for hours and hours and hours until you're next hungry. And it opens up so much space in life to then fill life with other things. And so it's about having meaning in life. I think that's really important for people, and for people to be doing things that they enjoy. And having other outlets for, like blowing off steam, working off stress, exercise. You quite often find that people, once they're properly nourishing their bodies, they actually, even if they hadn't been a gym goer or wanting to exercise before, a lot of people tend to say that they feel the need to keep active and use their body and move it. And gratitude comes into it. There's just so many different things that you can do, but I think ultimately it does come down to meaning and having meaning in life, and not letting food be wrapped up within that, if you see what I mean. So not using food to manage emotions.
Let's talk about celebrations. Okay, so it's because it's my birthday today, right? And we'll talk about how do you deal with like these social, you mentioned kids, birthday parties, gatherings, all these social. And so like, do you guys have tips or things that help you in social situations? Is that ever a struggle for you, or do you have clients that is a struggle for them, and what helps get them through those kinds of challenges?
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I tell people you've got multiple choices, multiple strategies available to you. You can take food with you. You can feast before you go. There's many times that I'll have to travel to go perform, and it'll be through the time that I would normally eat, through the window that I would normally eat my dinner in. And so what I do is I don't ever plan to eat a meal at 3 o'clock, except in those situations. I'll eat my dinner at 3. I'll even eat a little more than I would normally, just to make sure that I can go do the job, do the performance, come home, and not feel any hunger whatsoever.
Nice.
But those are the strategies that I employ, and those are the strategies that I encourage people to try. And you can also feast before you go to the event, and then people, aren't you hungry? No thanks. I've already eaten. You don't have to make a big deal about it. You don't have to draw attention to yourself. And if you bring food and somebody gets upset, that's their problem. It's not yours.
Awesome. What about you, Dr. Brown? How do you deal with social stuff?
Yeah, so I would only go to social things if I knew I had to eat something, as long as I knew there was stuff there that I would be able to eat. So there are some invitations I'll decline if I know, like, say, work colleagues are going out to a vegetarian restaurant or something for dinner. I sort of think, no, yeah, not for me. I'm going to skip that one this time. But I think much like Brett, otherwise, if I'm meeting friends for dinner, quite often portions in restaurants aren't that great for carnivores, because you get just like half a portion of meat or a third of what you would normally eat. So I would normally eat something beforehand, and then, over time, it just becomes easier to judge how much do you need to eat to be okay. And then if it's just like one steak when I go out and nothing else, then that's fine. I know I'll be all right. So I think it's about making sure you don't go to events hungry and that you have covered yourself, or eating or planning to eat a bigger meal in an earlier eating window that day and go along and don't have anything to eat. That's another option. So there's all different ways that you can play it.
Good approach. Yeah. And I've been even in my family life, like I'll focus more. We had a birthday party a while back, and we served meat, and we served chicken wings and steak bites before the other junky food. There was junky food there, but we had so we kind of had our own little version of that. We fill up first on this,
Yeah.
and it really did help. And I mean, of course, for me, that was my food. That was it. Like, I was done. But I've also been focusing a little bit more on other types of interactions. Like, we played a game, we, did some other things that are like, okay, can we bring in some non-food oriented fun? Why does all fun things have to orient around food? And in my friendships, I'm like, okay, let's meet for a walk. Let's, trying to shift that a little bit. So you guys have worked with so many people by now. That a big issue that people are dealing with is body image. And what has been helpful as they are on that journey, turning their health around to change how they actually look at themselves? Is that something that you help coach them in? Is that something that just kind of comes naturally? What's that been like?
For me, that depends on the client.
Yeah.
Some clients, they don't have body dysmorphia or anything like that. They're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so and a lot of people come to me, I want to lose weight. Well, wanting to lose weight's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The thing that people don't understand is the carnivore lifestyle is not a weight loss specific way of eating. Yeah. It's a get as healthy as humanly possible way of eating. Now, with that, when hormones come into balance, weight will start to come off. But it'll only come off on the body's timetable. There's no way to rush it. You can't force it. There's no shortcuts. There's no magic answer to that question, except you've got to keep eating meat like it's your full-time job, and you've got to be patient and trust your body, because there's nothing else you can do. And to explain to folks, this is going to take time. I'm not going to I don't ever give anybody a time window. It's between 6 weeks to 3 months. No, because it's always specific to the individual, and there's just too many variables there to make that kind of prediction. And, for me, I didn't get into this to lose weight. but a lot of people do. You know, I got into it to lose the crazy, and I still lost 22 pounds that I did not anticipate losing. I lost it. I was eating 4,200 calories a day and lost 22 pounds. Go figure that.
Right.
Go ahead, Rachel.
No, I was just laughing at, I was just had that whole calories in, calories out thing come into my mind there, like what a load of nonsense.
Oh, there we go. Right, right. That's a great question. Are you guys recommending that people track like their protein, their fat, their calories? Like, how's that going?
I always recommend, I'd say, listen, think about what our ancestors were doing 100,000 years ago. Were they measuring fat to protein ratios? Were they measuring how much salt they consumed in a day? Were they counting calories? Did they not even have a concept of what calories were? And, you know, and the reality is we know from anthropology that if someone survived childbirth and stayed injury-free, they could live to be 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have the hygiene that we have.
Right.
So, you know, I find this constant measuring to be just another machine that generates anxiety for people.
Right, right. That's our whole point, is we're walking away from that. We have this incredible resource that gets everything into balance. Our basic nutrition gets it into balance now. And what are we adding more to our mental capacity to try to do in and calculate these things?
Dr. Brown, I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't disagree at all. I completely agree that I don't think it's all that natural for us to be tracking or counting calories or macros. It's a bit difficult for me because probably in practice, it's more people try out ketogenic diets than carnivore who I've worked with so far. And I always think of it on a bit of a sliding scale. So I would usually suggest to people just to try to aim for a ketogenic makeup of their diet, but not necessarily sticking to a very strict variation of keto. Like you get 3-to-1 and 4-to-1 and then modified Atkins and all different proportions of fat, calories. And I think most people are likely to do well just by making a move to real foods and more of a ketogenic lifestyle. However, I think there can be some people who find it a bit more problematic in terms of their mental health. And for some people, they might need to troubleshoot and look at tracking ketones a bit just to try to work out if for them, they need a very particular range of ketones. But having said that, we've got all this research ongoing in relation to ketogenic diets and the outcome with major mental disorders. But there's a huge part of me that thinks, what if we did a carnivore trial of people with major mental illness? Like, so say a third of people respond to a ketogenic diet. I'm actually very personally optimistic that I think out of the 2/3 who may not respond in a straightforward sort of way, if you were to put those people on carnivore, I suspect there'd be a big proportion of them who would then respond. And so we're sort of working in the dark in a way. So we just have a few clinicians, you know, like Dr. Georgia Eade and Dr. Chris Palmer, who have done the majority of work with patients using ketogenic diets. But I don't think the majority of those patients have been carnivores. So we're sort of the early adopters of all of this, I guess you could say. So I think there's lots we don't know, but I'm very optimistic about it all.
Well, and when you say this, I mean, we're just what we think could happen, right? And so I think this could happen too, because what's happened to me, what's happened to you, like, you know, and because of the stories that we continually hear of people getting so much better. But if that were the case, like, what is what's the why behind that? Why would it possibly be much more effective than a keto? That's what I see. Most of the folks that come to our community and come to me as clients have done keto and they couldn't stick with it. They kept cheating. They kept getting on the sweets. And so doing keto was even hard to quantify. I know you can kind of quantify that with a test, you know, there's you can kind of see where they're at with the ketones and such. But what would be the whys of why you think that if we were able to do something like that, this is pretend world. This isn't, we're not in a clinic,
so,
but tell me why you think that could be.
I think there's a couple of different sides to it. So I think the first is that with carnivore, you can't get a more nutrient dense diet than carnivore. And so any variation of keto that strays from carnivore is going to be diluting that nutrient density. is my view on that. And I think there'd be others who would agree. And then with that, with a ketogenic diet, there are so many other foods that you can include on a ketogenic diet that you wouldn't a carnivore diet, even down to, foods like chia seeds, which are full of fiber, and more plants that have anti-nutrients in them. And I think for every piece of meat or animal-based nutrition that you replace with something else, I think you're losing out in terms of nutrient density. And so the public health collaboration meeting that I was just at last weekend, when Sean Baker was there and I got to meet him, and Georgia Eid was there. There were so many different amazing people speaking at that meeting. But one of the talks came from the Paleomedicina clinic in Hungary, and Dr. Sophia Clemens was speaking about brain cancer sufferers and presenting cases where people have had glioblastoma that have really significantly improved in terms of their symptoms and their recovery, and they've outlived any other cases, in terms of using treatments such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy for that group. And you just have to look at clinics like Paleomedicina who are using a carnivore diet. So they call it a Paleolithic ketogenic diet is what they call it, but it is a very well-formulated, nutrient-dense carnivore diet, essentially, and they're making yes, absolutely, and the strides that they're making in terms of treating people with terminal illnesses such as brain tumors. But also, I think I was on their website earlier today, just having a look around, and they had cases of lung tumors, and then they've reversed people with type 1 diabetes very early on in their illnesses. And you just have to really look at that and think, well, that speaks for itself ultimately, doesn't it? And I know Anthony Chaffee, I think he's had somebody on recently with a brain tumor who's really done very well on carnivore. So yeah, all of those examples just fill me with a lot of optimism.
And then there are the people who eliminated multiple sclerosis from their lives.
Oh, absolutely. Primary
progressive multiple sclerosis, the type that's never supposed to go into remission. Mm-hmm. And somebody I grew up with saw me on carnivore, and what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. The neurologist told him that she would spend most of the rest of her life in a wheelchair. Well, 6 weeks later, she notified me that she had fired that neurologist because she was symptom-free.
Oh.
After just 6 weeks.
It's a miracle. Oh my goodness. It's proper. It's just getting that right nutrition. I love that. And we have lots of people in our community that were in wheelchairs that did not have mobility, and they're walking and moving around, that were on that MS situation. That's phenomenal. Wow.
And just to let you all know, I got 5 more minutes.
Yes. Okay, so this is my last question. My wrap up is I did want to hear other hacks that you guys are using. So I'll just let you just kind of tell me some of those other things that are happening. Is I think the carnivore community is very open to trying different health improvements as well.
Well, the biggest thing that I do, grounding, daily grounding. If it's not my feet in the dirt, I'm attached to a grounding device when I'm in the house. When I go to bed at night, I've got 2 of these around my arm. I'm 62. I play guitar 4 to 6 hours almost every day. Sometimes this finger gets angry, and the grounding devices keep me flexible. It's improved my quality of sleep by many orders of magnitude. I wake up in exactly the same position I laid down in. I'm not wrestling in the bed at night while I'm asleep like I used to. I highly recommend grounding for everyone. Spend at least 20 to 30 minutes a day with your feet in the dirt or in the grass. And if the weather doesn't permit, get you a grounding device. My wife got 2 of these for $15 from Amazon. They're not expensive. Plug it into the ground on your electrical outlet and enjoy the benefits, because grounding puts electrons into our body from the earth, and it greatly reduces our inflammation.
Yeah.
How can you go wrong with that?
Awesome. Minimal cost. Yes. Awesome. How about you, Dr. Bren?
Oh yeah, I would second that. So I've really gotten into managing circadian rhythms and circadian health in the last few months. So getting out in the morning to try and get some morning sunlight, kind of UVA, UVB, but also earthing or grounding. So I've been doing that as well, sort of religiously every day. And I think that's really helped, just in terms of it puts you into more of a parasympathetic nervous system state and helps manage stress and It's very interesting the effects it can have on heart rate variability and all other sort of physiological parameters, and improvements in sleep and so on. And then I use blue blockers in the evening now as well. So just managing light exposure. And then my latest gadget is I purchased an analemma wand to make structured or coherent water.
Sure.
So that's my latest thing that I'm into. So it'll be interesting to see what that does. So I've got a little science experiment going with my son at home. So we got 2 plants and we're watering one with regular filtered water and the other one with structured water. And we're going to see how both of them do.
Oh, I love it. Just staying curious. We've got our foundation and then we can play in these other little things to see how they can enhance. I can see that both of your lives have been so enhanced by eating an all meat diet. You're out there teaching other people, helping other teachers, coaching other people. And I'm so thankful. Brett, you're 5-year carnivore at this point, pretty much.
July 16th of this year will be my 5-year carnivore.
Okay, Raymond's 5-year, and Rachel, you're right at the 4-year. You'll be coming up for. Okay, and I'm coming up on 3 years. So here we go. Like 5, 4, 3. Do we look like we're on death's door here? And I mean, we're doing all right. This is a good way to thrive.
I tell people all the time, I'm living proof bacon will kill you.
Yeah.
I've had it with every meal for the last 1,774 days.
Oh, beautiful. Bacon is life. I will be enjoying some bacon today. I hope that will happen for you guys as well. Thank you so much for just coming and being here. This has meant the world to me. You guys are both power players in my life and part of my community and part of why I know that this is the way for me. And this can be a way that helps so many people, so many other people.
Oh, thank you.